Um, okay, sure, thank you. All right. So this particular session is a free webinar on persuasive debt collection. In this particular webinar, first of all, my name is Shahrukh. I have been conducting this debt collection and telephone sales and customer service and virtual presentation skills. These programs already for many, many years. I don't even want to say the number of years because it's embarrassing. However, having said that, today what we will talk about is motivate, convince, and negotiate. Why in this order? Because when we start talking to them, they need to be motivated to want to talk to us because we are debt collectors. So we call them, our call is never welcome, because the moment they see our number, they will know already, starting picturing money leaving their pocket. So we have to motivate them to talk to us. Then we have to convince them to pay us, and then negotiate how much we want, even if they cannot pay us in full. It all depends on the actual situation inside the actual, whether it's a phone call or whether you go face to face, because I actually do both, both sides. Okay, having said that, what we need to understand is the skills. What kind of skills do we need? If this was my normal 2-day or 1-day full session, I would be asking you guys this question, and maybe we would have a discussion. However, with this number of minutes that we have, I'll just go ahead and show you very quickly actually the skills that are required. And these are not just skills, also behaviors, a certain type of attitude. So it's not just one thing, it's more like a combination of a few things that actually we need in order to be able to collect more effectively and bring some a lot more money for the company. Ultimately, the main objective for debt collection is obviously to increase your revenue, get your money back, ultimately grow revenue. But the issue is that a lot of our people, when they collect debt, they take those customers, promises or excuses, and then they will just simply hang up the phone. The promise is an empty promise. We never know whether they're actually going to pay or not. So having said that, we have to try to understand a few things. Like I mentioned, not only skills, but also some attitude related stuff, and of course, our behavior. So the first thing actually, what we need to have is a very strong opening, So in the opening, basically, we're talking about communication skills. If you are face to face, then of course it's your eye contact, your facial expression, your body language, everything goes inside there. However, for the phone, if you are collecting through the phone, because this program is called Teledebt collection, so we're more focused towards the phone, then your listening, your voice, the words you say, they become a lot more important because body language is non-existent. So we need to have that skill, communication, voice, language, dialogue, listening, articulate speaking, things of that nature. Eye contact, of course, not there. Then the second thing we also need to know is what to say first, then move on, say what, then say what, and so on. I noticed that, a lot of times, because I go into banks and insurance companies and many other organizations that collect debt, so I listen to their calls. So what I find is that they will just simply make the phone call, ask for the money, and then when there is a response from the customer, they start going into not sure what to say. So that not sure what to say, is directly proportional to the money that the company loses, because you have to hang up the phone if you don't know what to say. So keeping that in mind, we actually need to know what is a good collection call structure. How to start, what to say first, what question to ask. Then if they have answered the question according to the response, which benefit of paying or consequence of paying do we need to use? So ultimately, it's just basically knowing what to do next. So that's very important in terms of, not only debt collection, but also, of course, anything. When you're making sales, like when I conduct training on telephone sales, it's the same thing. The structure of the call, what to say next, how to ask the right questions. So that actually comes out to be the next thing. Probing for facts. We also need to have this skill to be able to ask the right questions at the right time. And our probing questions need to create a certain visualization in the customer's mind. They need to be able to picture through our questions. We want to lead them. I like to call them leading questions. We want to lead them into thinking about the issues they are going through because they owe money. And of course, in a few minutes, I'll be showing you some of those images as to what they are going through and how we can create those images in their minds. And by the way, in this particular session, you will notice that this part, and so in other words, the questioning skills and the structure of the call, these are the two things that I will be focusing on for this particular webinar. And once again, in these 45 minutes, whatever I can, it'll probably be one-way street, but you just go ahead and focus. When I conduct this as a normal program, of course, these two things ultimately take it no less than 2 hours, 1 hour per thing. Anyway, both circle things we will be talking about today. Then there's a lot more to learn. There's assertiveness, how we position ourselves with the customer. Some you can call them defaulter, but I feel like defaulter is a bad word. Just like the F word, default. This is a D word in debt collection. So I still want to call them a customer because even if they owe us money, even if they are a little bit more overdue than we expected, they are still our customers. They've been our customers for a long time. And just because at this particular moment they're having a little bit of a problem, we actually don't really want to call them defaulters. Defaulter is, like I said, it's like a D word, However, we need to be assertive. Instead of saying, could you please find it in your heart to make a one payment, please? If we do that, we are very submissive. We are not being professional. And then we cannot be aggressive. We cannot tell them, if you don't pay, we are coming after you. That's aggressive. And we cannot do that either, because these are our customers. We respect them. Sometimes we need to have a soft corner for these people, because they are the ones that pay our staff salaries. They are the ones who pay all of our expenses. These are our customers. So the only way to do it is assertiveness, which is basically how, like a director, like a managing director talks to his secretary. That's assertive tone, like, could you please type this letter? Thank you. Like that. So that is, so we, of course, in the full session, this is something that we go into. Not only that, then we look at handling excuses. This one, I guess I don't have to go in too much of detail, simply because if you have been collecting debt over the last few months or years, you come across tons and tons of excuses, and we need to actually make a list of all those excuses, and one by one come up with dialogue as to what to say, what is the most impactful response for which excuse. So we do that in a full session. Then, of course, we also need to worry about empty promises. Okay, I akan bayar minggu depan. Okay, bayar minggu depan. Okay, terima kasih, hang up the phone. Minggu depan came, no payment. Because it was an empty promise, we did not continue to ask them maybe a question that helps us verify the authenticity of their promise. So we need to make sure that when somebody says, I will pay you next week or next month, it's actually going to happen. So there are certain types of responses that I will teach people on how to get that empty promise, to make sure it's not an empty promise, it's an actual promise. Because, there are two things. There's P2P, in other words, promise to pay versus actual collection. And I remember one of the telco companies I trained not so long ago on debt collection, their promise to, let's say, the actual collection was like 20% of the promise to pay. In other words, they had in 1 month, they had a promise of 10 million of collection, but they ultimately only collected 2 million. This means that the agents, those who were collecting the debt, did not really know how to basically respond to empty promises. So, of course, we talk about that in my full session, and we go in and we do activities, and we create lists of types of promises, and then we come up with dialogue to overcome that. And then, of course, not only that, this is I've put that as the last thing, but this is actually the number one thing, is what to say, how to respond, how to ask the right questions, what are the right questions to ask, what are what is the dialogue that I should use in order to tell them the benefit of paying, and also what dialogue should I use in terms of how to express to the customer the consequences of not paying, blocking of account, and sending to legal, and all of those different things that happen after a while. We need to figure out a way to tell them these things without offending them. Kalau tak bayar, we start legal action. You talk like that, okay, they will say, all right, I'm so sorry, but they will keep that in their heart. When the situation comes back to normal, you will be the last person they will call for the next time they need service. They will go to your competitor because they will remember how you treated them in their bad times. So this all has to do with a little bit of empathy, a little bit of, keeping the customer in mind. So with what to say, we need to figure out our opening statement, how to start the call. When I listen to calls in contact centers, because I listen to recorded calls in my pre-training pre-training project. So I listen to recorded calls. In the recorded calls, I have heard things like, good morning, I'm so-and-so from this company. This is how much you owe, bila mo baya. So when the customer says, oh, so sorry, I will pay next week. Okay, thank you very much. Hang up the phone. Now that is not the kind of opening we want, because it became the ending while we were opening. So instead of ending while we were opening, maybe we should open the avenue, open the channel a little bit more during our opening statement. And then of course, asking the right questions, which is probing, and then going on until the, negotiating, and then of course, ending the call. So this ultimately will become the full, shall we say, the combination of the required elements of debt collection. And of course, if you notice over to the bottom right-hand corner, this actually is the full day session, but the circled areas is what I will try to go very fast and show you what these are all about. I will move into the one on the right-hand side in terms of what we should do first, which is asking the right questions to get the customer to visualize the benefits of paying and consequences of not paying. Just getting them to picture that. If you say I'll take legal action, that they don't know what to picture. They're just thinking the word legal, and maybe they're thinking of maybe courthouse or whatever the visual image that comes to their mind. Having said that, let's look at this. How we convince these people is like, you see this guy on the left-hand side, he's pointing towards this image that he's trying to create in this person's mind. Hey, look, you can have a lot of peace of mind. You can relax if you pay this thing off, because then a lot, these debt collectors will not be calling you so often. You will not have to worry about, okay, when the phone rings, okay, who is that? All of those worries you don't have, because you don't owe any more money. So basically, getting people to visualize is the way to convince them or persuade them to pay, and get them to think what I've got on the right-hand side here. I need to pay, I should pay, things like that. We want the customer to move from not wanting to pay to, oh my God, I need to do this so that I can, get rid of all the problems and maybe even enjoy myself a little bit more. The pictures that need to be created, the visual images that we want our customers to have are things like this. You are always stressed. And you notice all those arrows are pointing towards this girl. She owes money. So there are debt collectors from all over the place calling her. And we want to get her to picture this. How I'm sure you don't feel very comfortable nowadays, because there are probably a lot of different types of people calling you, including myself. Like that. When we say things like that, they start picturing all these people that are calling them. So now that's tension, that's a pain, and we want to let them know that the pain needs to go away. So this is the one image that we will try to put it, place inside their mind. Then the other image. Imagine when you are debt free. Imagine how you're going to feel. You'll have so much peace of mind. Nobody's calling you anymore to collect debt. All the money that you make in your job, everything stays in your pocket. Now you're probably paying a certain percentage out of your pocket to pay all of these debt collectors. But once you are paid off, look at how you're going to be. You're just going to have such a nice, peace of mind and relax and stress-free and everything. Then this is one image. Then there's another image that we can create for them. No more debt collectors calling. Plus, with good credit, you can finance things. You can finance a car, finance a house, all the benefits of having good credit. Of course, we have, places like, Bank Nagara, Seacrest to thank for the credit issues. So and this is one of the images that we want to create, so that they understand that I actually should go ahead and pay this thing off. Even if I don't have the money, or if we haven't received our payment from our client yet, how do I pay them? They start thinking in terms of maybe getting their clients to give them a certain percentage so that they can pay you. Ultimately, as we say, where there is a will, there is a way. Most of the time, people say no, they cannot pay is simply because they don't want to take that extra effort to arrange the money if they don't have it. That's basically normally the issue. You know, there have been situations, I remember many years ago, I was 3 months late on my car payment. They repossessed my car. I think this was probably like 8, 9 years ago. I had this Mercedes E200 repossessed. So when in the first month, I was lazy waiting for client payments, so didn't make the payment. Second month, client payment was delayed. Third month, when they took the car, now I'm motivated. You know, by this time, too late, but now I'm motivated. So I start making calls here and there. No more lazy. Now I'm doing something. So if they didn't repossess the car, I would still be a little bit more lazy. So ultimately, we need to figure out the carrot and stick approach. Carrot approach is the telling them the benefits of you know, being debt free. Stick approach is all the consequences that they face once they you know, don't pay us. Then of course, this is another image, bottom left hand corner. You can see no more calls from debt collectors. The person on the right hand side is basically the person we are talking to, trying to collect debt. And you tell them, listen, this is how much peace of mind you're going to have. Wouldn't you like it that, you know, every day your phone rings at least 3 or 4 different times? And I know that half of those calls are coming from my company, but of course they're you know, I'm sure you want to get, you know, get yourself to be in a space which is more peaceful for you. And the way to do that is, let's go ahead and discuss. Let's try to figure out, you know, even I will probably help you with some ideas. Ultimately, we want everybody to be happy, and you are very stressed out, and it's probably because of us, because you owe us money. Let's see if we can try to figure something out and come up with some kind of an arrangement. And then, of course, when we come up with this kind of images in their mind, of course, there are some more images I'll be showing you in the next slide, but just this much alone is enough to start in terms of, you know, maybe negotiating some kind of a deal. So this is the first one. Oh, I need a solution. So instead of going from opening to end, we went from opening, the call opening, to actually opening up a certain avenue where we can begin a discussion. You know, so once we have begun the discussion, of course, then we start telling them a few more things that create a few more images, like this one. If it's hire purchase, we can create this picture. You know what, Mr. Customer, we would like to, you know, try to avoid you losing your car over just a couple of months of payment. You think about it, all the issues that you will go through if your car is repossessed versus that 2 months payment. You know, in your opinion, which one is bigger? You know, if they repossess, you have to pay everything off. And of course, there's a couple of other images I'll be showing you in just a moment. So instead of going through all of that, if we can figure out a way to explain to the customer that the consequence is a lot bigger problem than the problem right now, which is that payment that they owe you. Consequence is too big. Payment is not as big. If the payment, let's say, if you look at this particular car, I think it's Proton, it's an older car, maybe the payment is like 180 ringgit a month. Versus if they don't pay for 3 months, of course, repossess, then they have to pay 3 times plus the charges of this and that, everything. So we create this kind of image. Then we look at another image. Mr. Customer, loan can get canceled. But if we say loan can get canceled, they cannot really picture it as much. We have to be a little bit more creative in terms of describing what happens when the loan is canceled. Then, of course, blacklisted. Then there's another image, having to go in front of the judge. And then, of course, the bottom left-hand one is actually very, very, it hits home, you know, because if you notice, no car, because the car got repossessed, and we're just talking about hire purchase. There many different examples, many different industries, but I'm just using these little examples. Okay, so bottom left-hand corner, no car, but still paying the balance car payment and taking LRT. So you imagine this guy owns a car, but it has been repossessed. So he's still paying that. Then at the same, which means that he's paying for a car, which he doesn't have. And at the same time, when he travels, him and his wife have to take LRT. So imagine what a stupid picture, you know, that, you know, you have a car, you're paying for it, but you still do not have the car to use. So all of this becomes a really big, you know, I would say a very smart thing to say for debt collectors. to go ahead and explain to the customer. Now, the question is, basically, I want to give you an example of an unsuccessful collection call versus a successful collection call. The successful collection call that I will, actually both examples that I'll show you are from my own clients, which I cannot, of course, name names. However, this particular one, the unsuccessful one is definitely something that when I was listening to the recorded calls, when I went to that contact center, this is how they were collecting debt. And then I realized, okay, there's a lot of room that we can help them. So this is what they were doing, you know. The collector says, I'm calling about your credit card payment. It is overdue by 2 months already. When will you make payment? Customer says, I'll pay next week. Collector says, okay, thank you very much. Hangs up the phone. So now, next week came, nothing happened, no payment, because this was an empty promise. And the reason why this did not, calls of this nature do not turn into actual collection is simply because if you look over to the left-hand side, the customer is imagining money leaving their pocket, money leaving their hands. And this is actually not really a very good image for people to have if we are trying to convince them to give money. Because no one wants money flying out of their pocket, you know, everybody wants to hold on to their cash. So because of that, this particular image, this call center, this company that I, of course, as you can see, is credit card debt, so you know the industry already. But they were having this problem. Promise to pay very high and actual collections are very low percentage because of empty promises, excuses of this nature. Why? Because half of it is, yes, the customer's fault, but actually the other half is our fault. Simply because we did not really use the right kind of dialogue to get them to visualize stuff, you know. So let me show you the successful example. And this is something I did for a logistics company. I remember this because this dialogue is from an actual dialogue that we developed inside the training program. I'm just showing you this is actual stuff. Okay, success through visualization. This is how I showed them how to open the call. By the way, their collections have gone up at, I think, about 23 or 24%. Between 23 and 24%, 23 point something percent, their collections went up. Excuse me. Okay, think about it. Opening, hi, good morning, I'm so-and-so calling from this company. I'm calling to inform you that your account with us is now 3 months overdue and the amount that needs to be paid this week is 1,000 ringgit. This is a bit worrisome, you know. So I'm calling to see if everything is okay with your business and yourself. Is that okay? Is everything okay? So what am I doing? Instead of saying you owe this much, bila mau bayar. Instead of saying that, I'm saying you owe this much, everything okay? Because you've always been a good paymaster before. Then what's happening now? Everything okay? So this is basically, when we open like this, is everything okay? The customer, instead of saying, sorry, I cannot pay, they have to answer this question. Yes, I'm okay. Or no, I'm not okay. So this becomes a harmless question to begin the call with, because we want to open up the avenue instead of close right there in the beginning of the call. This is actually the reason why their collections increased, because they actually got the customers to start talking to them. And that's ultimately how it works. Then during one of the calls, when I did the post-training assessment, this is another image I showed them how to create in the customer's mind. Basically, what's happening in this image is that this guy has this girl telling him all of the other people this guy owes money to. And you can see the expression on his face, how worried he is. And he's got his finger on the calculator. He's trying to figure out all of these people I owe money to. So if Mr. Shahrukh's company calls me and asks for money, I cannot pay him because I'm actually paying so many other people. So the image we created in this person's mind, of course, this is the company that I trained. This is how it worked. According to the situation, the collector would say this: I understand that sometimes we have to pay other bills that are higher priority first. Is there any other pressing expense that feels like first priority to pay right now? Yeah, I see. What if we could figure out a way for you to fulfill both obligations? So what are we doing? We're basically trying to get this customer to realize that we actually understand his situation. Like if I owe a car payment, then I also have a house mortgage payment I owe. Then I owe my two children's university fees. All of these different expenses I'm paying. And then all of a sudden, let's say Maybank calls me and says, hey, credit card payment, 2 months overdue. So now I'm thinking which one not to pay, which one to pay. So I'm stuck in that. So the collector, I showed this company how to have empathy with these people, put ourselves in their environment, in their mind, and try to figure out what they are thinking. What they are thinking is this: there are so many other people to pay. Ours might have taken a little bit of a lower priority. What we want to do is to bring it back up to a higher priority for them to pay. So that's basically another image that we created. Then take a look at this image. Now, this is actually, I remember that the client, the company was a logistics company that was collecting debt, a logistics company. I'll give you an example of logistic companies: DHL, CityLink Courier, J&T Express. These are logistics companies, courier type companies. So I was in there training one of them. So I explained to them how to create an image in the person's mind whom they're talking to, that if the account is blocked, what problem they're going to have. So we create that image. If the account is blocked, what problem are you going to have? Okay. Actually, my biggest worry, Mr. Customer, you take a look at the dialogue now. My biggest worry is that you have important packages that need to be dispatched daily. Notice we are trying to create this image in this person's mind. Instead of saying, if you don't pay by this end of this month, we will block your account. What is this person imaging, creating? What image is this person, visualizing? A blocked account, which is not a very strong image. So through our dialogue, we let them visualize their warehouse getting backed up with all the product that got manufactured, but nobody coming to pick it up. So everything is backed up. So that's a big problem. So we try to create that image in the customer's mind so that they know what's coming up is by the end of this month, we will block the account, and your product is just going to be, you will have to find places all over your factory to store everything, simply because nobody's coming to pick up no trucks coming, because we would block the account. So we're just basically helping them create that image. So if we read through this, I'm going to go start from the middle of this sentence over to the left-hand side. We need to ensure that your delivery process continues as forecasted. If our system blocks your account, you notice I'm not saying we will block your account. I'm not being rude. I'm saying if our system blocks your account, which means that the account will be blocked. But we are saying it in such a way that this person feels like we actually care about him. If our system blocks your account, the backed up deliveries can occupy too much space in your warehouse. Your customers might start complaining. So now this person starts imagining all of this. That the debt collector cares about me. Number one, he understands my situation, that I have other bills to pay. He also understands that if the account is blocked, then of course I'm going to have a big problem. So basically all of this makes the customer feel like maybe they should try a little bit harder to try to arrange, even if they don't have it at the moment, maybe they can try to arrange for the money. A businessman can arrange for money very easily. Businessmen are very, very creative in that way. Even if they don't have money, they will make promises. Okay, I'll pay you 100K next week. So you just get the product ready because I have a client who wants to buy it. So the business people are always, they've got contacts. They can generate money last minute. Okay, then if you take a look at this. Now, this is another, we will take legal action. If we were to say it like this, we will take legal action, then once again, we sound like we actually don't really care about the customer. We don't give a damn. You pay us and that's it. But the problem is, if these are your recurring, customers, if these are your shall we say, regular customers, we cannot afford to be rude or aggressive with these customers, because we still want to continue that monthly thing that they pay us, for whatever service we provide. So instead of telling them we will take legal action in a rude way, this is how we say it. Another problem is that by tomorrow, our system is scheduled to block your account and the finance department will refer your account to legal department. This can generate unnecessary documentation from our side serious inconvenience and hassle for you. Legal letters, court summons, etc. I suggest we think of a workable solution so we can avoid all of these things. So what are we doing? Once again, telling them what's going to happen, but we say it in such a way that they can visualize the legal letters, visualize having to stand in front of the judge, visualize court summons. This is basically, once you visualize it, it's easier once you get them to visualize it, it's easier for you to convince them. And I have heard that the best salespeople, best convincers, persuaders are those who start like this. Mr. Customer, picture this. Just like that. Mr. Customer, picture this. When they say picture this, the customer's brain already starts thinking, okay, what am I going to picture? Like that. And I have seen this in, of course, in my own, of course, knowledge. And then I've seen some movies in which real estate agents in a movie is selling a beach house by telling this customer, picture this. You came back from work. You opened a beer, or maybe you opened a cup of coffee. You went back to the deck. You have a beautiful beach view. You're having your coffee in the afternoon, in the evening. So picture, the moment they start picturing all of that, they want to buy the house. So ultimately, it has to do with creating those images, those pictures in the customer's mind. Okay, I have to go very quickly. Now, I also want to show you, remember I mentioned that I'm going to show you how to ask the questions so that we can create images in people's minds. That's one. Then I had circled the second thing. And the second thing was the structure of a phone call. The call flow, as we say, the process of debt collection, or of a debt collection call. In order for me to show you the process, some of you, of course, will be familiar with the process flow and what it looks like on a slide, but some of you might not be so familiar. So let me take about a minute and show you what a process flow actually looks like. So if you look at this, a typical morning process flow, what happens? It starts actually from the night when we go to sleep. So this is what happens. You go to sleep. Then alarm goes off. This is a process. Take a look, think of it as a process. You went to sleep last night. You were asleep until the morning, alarm goes off. Alarm goes off. Now you have to figure out, is this a work day? Now, if it is a work day, yes, then you get up. But if it is not a work day, you go back to sleep. So this is basically a very simple way of trying to understand what a process flow looks like. Now, let me show you the collection call flow, your actual call. Okay, when you start, how or what to say, and then if this happens, what to do, if this happens, what not to do, like that. So let me show you this, the actual collection call flow. Hang on, let me move this window a little bit. All right. The collection call process flow. What happens is that first, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are talking to the right person. If you look to the top left-hand corner, you cannot collect money from the secretary. The secretary has no idea. You cannot collect money from that person's assistant. If it's like, let's say, the director of finance, you're calling and talking to the director of finance in the company, that's the person you can collect from. Maybe assistant director, maybe finance manager, but anything below that is actually not the right person. You know, hi, I'm calling to find out, you know, your company owes us, you know, 2 months overdue for this, you know, how, can you please tell us when you're going to pay? This is a waste of time because that person doesn't know. Okay, I'll check with my boss and get back to you. So the first thing that needs to happen is we have to develop the strength to do phishing. I like to call it phishing. Phishing basically in this case means looking for the right person to talk to, so that you're not wasting your dialogue or your energy on the wrong person. So once we have identified that we're talking to the right person, then we say reason for a call, amount due, and what happened. So if you notice, if you remember the picture with the cat there, that's the opening statement. That's what we're going to say here. Hi, good morning. I'm so-and-so calling from this company. Mr. Customer, the reason why I'm calling is that, you know, your account is this much and overdue, and just a little bit worried about you because you have been such a good paymaster. Is everything okay with your business? Or what happened? You've been such a good paymaster. So basically, Of course, once if we end up, doing this full session, then you will know a lot more as to what I mean. I cannot go in too much detail in that because this is just simply an overview as a short webinar. Okay, then reason for the call. So I'm talking to the right person. I have now opened the call in a very strong, impactful manner where I have convinced the customer to continue to talk to me. Ultimately, that he hasn't given me a promise right in the beginning, because I don't like those promises that I get right in the beginning of my debt collection call. That I would say 99.9% of the time, that does not convert into actual collection. So I have convinced this person, okay, go ahead and continue to talk to me. So what happened? If this person gives me a positive response, if he says, I'm so wait, I'm so sorry. Actually, the last 3 months, we've been going through a lot of bad problems. But the thing is this, that next week I'll be receiving a payment from one of my customers, and I will definitely be able to give you guys your payment by, I would say, towards the end of next week. I hope that's okay. So now I've got a little bit of a positive response with a reason why he can pay. I need to know why he can pay now and why he couldn't pay in the last 3 months. I need to know that in a very soft manner. I will need to ask the right questions in the right manner. Anyway, so if it is positive, he gives you, a very positive response, then you negotiate the payment arrangement and do some confirmation. Okay, I understand that by Thursday next week, you will be paying us 35,000, and that will be the first payment of your 4 payments that need to happen. So just reconfirm, Mr. Customer, Thursday, 35K, your first payment will arrive. Am I right, Mr. Customer? Yes, you're right. Okay, sir, thank you very much. I will go ahead and put it down. On Thursday, if I don't hear from you, hope maybe by 4 o'clock, or if the payment does not show up in our account, I will give you a call just to make sure everything is okay. Is that right? Is that okay, Mr. Customer? Yeah, it's okay. All right. So now I have told him, I'm not going to close my eyes and wait for the payment. I will actually monitor this. And by 4 o'clock on Thursday, if the payment is not there, he can expect me to call him back. And then he has to explain to me why did he break the promise. Once again, in a very soft way, I will have my discussion. Of course, this soft way and all this is part of my training law. This is something that everybody will go through if you guys go through my full session. Okay, then if the negotiation arrangement became positive, everything was okay, then we end the call. That's it. We end the call. However, don't expect this to happen very often. The pink part doesn't happen very often. This is not reality. This is reality in a very small percentage. Ultimately, you still have to have the discussion. You have to use that, what I like to call the let's talk approach. You have to ask the right questions. You have to get them to talk. You have to tell them a combination of benefits of paying and the consequences of not paying in a very nice little combination, then asking them the right question after we tell them the benefit and consequence combination. So here we go. So if you look at this one, hang on, let me just use my, I think I don't want to do that. Hold on. Okay. If it is negative, you opened the call, you told them the reason for the call and the amount due, you asked them what happened. And this guy started giving you very negative responses. Oh yeah, I know you're calling because I stole you money. I know like that. But we still got a lot of problem going on. It's very difficult. I mean, don't you think if I had the money, I would have paid you? So you will get this kind of a situation from the customers. That's what we call a negative thing. So when the negative thing happens, this is where we make our first attempt. B and C basically means benefit and consequence. Benefit of paying, if you remember, debt-free and debt collectors not calling him and a lot of, peace of mind and stress-free, all of those are benefits of paying. And then the consequences of paying, block the account first, then go to legal, this and that, all of those things. Those are the consequences. So what we do is when I conduct this full session, in that session, we have what we call breakout group activities in which we will develop dialogue for each one of these boxes that you see inside this process flow, which means we will have the dialogue to figure out if it's the right person we're talking to, dialogue for reason for call, amount due and what happened, actual dialogue to negotiate and confirm and end the call, which also means we will also develop dialogue during that training program for the first attempt of benefits and consequences. Benefits of paying, consequences of not paying. We tell them the first set of benefits and consequences, and we ask them our question. Then there are two different things that will happen. Either it will be a positive response, then you go to negotiate and then end the call. Or it will be a negative response. Once again, second attempt now. Because we would have developed through the training program all the different types of dialogues for attempt 1, attempt 2. I'm sure you know by now that there will be an attempt 3 and 4 coming up soon. We are going to get our debt collectors' life to become a lot easier, just simply by helping them develop dialogue for each one of these pockets. So now the first attempt, the debt collector already knows which benefit and consequence he or she is going to say and what question he or she is going to ask. Then wait for the customer to respond. Positive response, negotiate and confirm. Negative response, of course, second attempt. And then the same thing here. Second attempt, same thing, benefit, consequence, question. Positive response, negotiate. Negative response, go to third attempt. Benefits, consequences, question. When you understand this flow and you make it your nature when you're collecting debt, ultimately you don't necessarily need to look at any process. You don't need to look at any dialogue. As long as you know benefits, consequences, and questions, these three things. This is what I show in my debt collection training. And this is basically what helps you in terms of trying to understand what specific type of dialogue to say for each one. And this is the dialogue that we, of course, ultimately develop. So the third attempt, you said the third benefit and the third consequence, you ask the third question, customer, okay, by now customer says, okay, let's go ahead. Maybe he'll give you a positive response like this. I'm going to try my best. You just go ahead and give me a call next week on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, I will let you know exactly how I will try to arrange the money. So if you've got this kind of a situation, there are two reasons. Either he's trying to buy time from you until next week, so that next week he start giving you excuses. That's one. The other one is he's actually telling the truth, and he will know on Wednesday next week how much he can pay you guys. So either way it goes, I would suggest, because you have taken 3 different attempts to get to this point, the customer understands your sense of urgency of this payment. So I would say this one, if after the third attempt, go ahead and believe their promise and just go ahead and give them a call back on that Wednesday that they requested. And then on that Wednesday, then you decide whether or not to go ahead and take some serious consequence action or still be nice to this customer. Okay, that would be the third attempt. Then of course, there's a fourth attempt, same thing, benefits, consequences, and question 4, positive, confirm, negotiate and confirm. And if it is negative, now, because this is the fourth attempt, your company should have a policy where you have tried your best and the customer still said he cannot pay. So now you know that the phone calls are now not enough to get our money from this person. He keeps getting rid of us over the phone. He's very smart. He's very creative. He gives us all kinds of very creative excuses, all kinds of empty promises. You've had enough. You've tried a few times. So then you look at the bottom of the screen, follow procedure according to company policy. That basically is a very positive way of me telling you, now you go after them. Ultimately now is the time to contact your legal advisors and contact some collection firms or whatever you need to do that. Because a phone call can go a certain distance. And after that, which means that in our phone call, we are trying to use the carrot approach with a mixture of stick. But now you know that the mixture of carrot and stick is not working. This person just requires the stick. So that once again, it has to go, but our attempt has to happen all the way until the fourth attempt, so that we're giving this person a chance until the last minute. And only then we go ahead and say, okay, Mr. Customer, thank you very much. I really did try to help you, overcome the issues that you are having in terms of owing so much money. But since you mentioned that there is no way that you can, pay anything, all right, I will go ahead and pass this your details over to our legal department, and then hopefully, they can help you with some kind. So we are still being nice, very nicely saying that the legal department can help you. But the thing is this: you have created an impression by now that you are not a rude, aggressive person. You have created an impression of your company, that your company, even in the future, when this person's situation becomes better, he's still going to use your services. And you've also created the impression that even the legal department, when they contact him, they will also be as nice as me. But the actual stuff will still happen. I can very nicely say, go to hell. I can use my dialogue in such a way, in such a nice way, but ultimately the meaning would be go to hell. So it's just that, and of course, in my full training session, this is what I show all of my trainees as to how to say the right things in the right way, using the right voice. Okay, this brings me, I guess, to of course, it's 10:56 also, perfect timing. Brings me to the end of this short webinar. I hope that whatever information that I gave you guys, hopefully you'll be able to use it. And if nothing else, just try to remember what I have shown you in terms of the dialogue, the slides, in terms of the benefits of why we should use the benefits of collection and why we should use the consequence of not paying. Having said that, I think I'll go ahead and let you guys know, the full session is actually coming up on September 28th. On September 28th, I will be conducting one full day of pretty much everything that I showed you in the first slide. Let me show you what I mean. Hang on, just a moment. This one. In that full session, I will be covering every one of these things. I will show you the communication, how to use your voice in the right way, how to structure the call, the structure I showed you, how to ask the right questions. I'll show you how to be assertive, how to handle excuses, empty promises, all the right dialogue, and so on. So that session will end up happening on September 28th. And I'm also supposed to show this particular slide. Hang on. Yeah. Now, the thing is that for each person to attend, generally, our company, iTrainingExpert, we charge 1,490 ringgit per attendee. However, those people who have attended this particular webinar, you become a little bit more special for us. So we give you a discount. And if you were to attend, you can attend at 1,290 for the session, which is coming up in September 28th. Not only that, if you have a lot of people that are collecting debt in your company, then this might not be a good idea for you. Basically, what you probably want to do is just contact iTrainingExpert and get them to get us to arrange a full in-house session just for your people, just specifically for your product, specifically for the consequences that your customers would face and the benefits that your customers would enjoy if they go ahead and pay you off. So ultimately, both the options are there, in-house, and then of course you can register to attend the one on September 28th also. Once again, this brings me to the end of my few minutes of blah, 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 blah. I'm so sorry, I was blah, blah, blahing, but hopefully you got something out of it. Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and unshare my screen. Give me just a moment. And then we'll open the floor for, why did the window go down? Hang on.
Thank you, Shahrukh.
Yeah, I want to unshare my screen. Hang on.
Yeah. No problem. You can just leave it on. No problem. All right. We have a few minutes more. If you have questions or comments, this is the time to put down your comments, or you can turn on your mic and chat with Shahrukh. If you have any questions, he still has a few minutes with you. If you have any difficulties or challenges or any questions related to what he has just presented, feel free to shoot now.
Okay, I noticed Norlida has mentioned that she wanted to take a look to see the video of the slides that I showed. I don't know if this is possible, Sue, because this is copyrighted material, and this is
copyrighted. Is for people who sign up for the program. So it's good enough that this is sponsored by CTOS, and you would have already set and written down notes and have a lot of input. So this is a time for interaction. Keeping the notes has not too much of a use, because everything is from Shahrukh, and this is the good time to ask.
And Lida, if you have a few people, either you can go ahead and register, or if you have a few people in your company, then just go ahead and get an in-house thing together so that I can train all of you in my full 2-day program.
Shahrukh. Any questions from Lida? How do you find the talk? No question. Gurmeet, thank you so much for arranging this. You have something to say to this group of people who spent 1 hour with us?
I would like to say thank you so much for actually, spending up your time to actually join this webinar, even though it's a short webinar, but I hope you all have learned something out of it. Not to worry, you all stay tuned for those of your other members who did not get to join this time around. We'll have another session in November. So you can actually refresh again for starting of the year next year. All right, so we have a lot of iTraining sessions with, we have a lot of webinar sessions with iTraining. So please stay tuned and check your emails often so that you actually get all those EDM updates on the webinars that we have. Thank you so much, Mr. Shahrukh. Thank you, iTraining.
You're most welcome. All right.
Hi, I have one question here, Mr. Shahrukh.
Sure. Who am I talking to? Can you tell me your name?
I'm Teresa here, Teresa.
Teresa, okay.
Okay, easy.
Okay, Teresa Tan.
Okay, yes. I'm from a construction company. So we are basically dealing with main con. So my problem is that each time it's quite difficult for us to chase money with the main con. Their payment are all very slow. Unless they pay us, then we can afford to pay our subcontractors, the subcontractors. So, Mr. Shahrukh, how do we approach them? Because just now the way that you taught us is only if threaten them. I mean, talking to them and asking them for payment. But for us, you see, in the construction line, we cannot afford to stop work.
We cannot simply issue
and we also cannot issue any letter of demand to them because the job is still progressing. So what should we do? How do we talk to them?
All right. How you talk to them would be, it will take me about 1 full day or 2 full days to explain to you how to talk to them, what to say, what kind of voice to use, how to be convincing. And ultimately, the answer to your question is, it was right in the beginning of the webinar when I was mentioning that you need to create a dialogue in such a way that you're able to create visual images in their mind. But if you don't have any consequences to fall back on, because the construction work cannot stop, but you still want to get them to pay you, then of course you are getting the short end of the stick. Because it's just like, I'm giving you a gun, but it does not have any bullets in it, and now you go and fight a war. If you don't have a loaded gun, you cannot fight a war. In other words, if you don't have any consequences to fall back on, if the customer does not ever worry about any consequences because they know you are stuck with them simply because the construction has to continue, then all of it is just basically going to be words, your voice, your attitude, ultimately how you create the images in their minds. That's all you can do ultimately, because you don't have anything, to fall back on. You cannot say we will block your account. You cannot say you'll take legal action. Cannot say any of that. Yes. So am I right?
Yes, you are right.
Okay. So having said that, it's just ultimately all communication skills. Developing the right dialogue, coming up with the right things to say. However, once again, you have to depend on the customers, being nice to you to make payment, because they actually don't really ever have to worry about any consequences because the work has to continue.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So having said that, your team actually needs this kind of attention a lot more than some of the other teams who can actually use consequences. But you use the word threaten. I did not say the word threaten throughout my webinar. We do not threaten customers. We softly explain to them what can happen if they don't pay by a certain date, what can happen. And if that happens, you are going to go through a lot of problems. We are trying to avoid having to go through all those problems. That is why I suggest we go ahead and try to negotiate some kind of an arrangement. That's how we talk to them. We don't threaten them at all. This is not that guy, you know, that comes to, if you owe the money and comes and knocks on your door with the gold chain that is this thick. This is not that kind of a gangster debt collection. What I'm showing you is professional collection with the right voice, right dialogue, right structure.
Yeah.
And I believe that, you know, maybe the company needs, I know that construction cannot stop. That I understand that. So that is something that in your industry, you will have to deal with. And your people, your team that collects the debt needs to be slightly more trained than some other companies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we got 4 different chats. Well shared, practical and engaging. Oh, you're most welcome. Gim Eng Ung. Then Norlida, thank you, sir, and CTOS team. All right, you guys are most welcome. ST Chai, you're welcome. Catherine Kwe. All right. Okay. Any other questions that I can answer for you guys? Let me ask you this. Just last question before you go. Put in the chat, put yes if you learned something and no if I just bloody wasted your time. Put the word yes if this helped you a little bit. Otherwise, it was all a waste of time for you, and accept my apologies. Aha, I got tons and tons of yeses. Okay. KY Lisa, all right, cool. Okay, so yes, I guess it did help you guys. Okay, you guys can stop typing the yes. It's just the chat has gone crazy already. Like that. Okay. All right, guys, I'm done. If you have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, well, it's Friday. After this, chill.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, thank you so much. I think you enjoy. This is Shahrukh. This is his personality. So learn from the guy who is very good at communicating, especially talking on the phone. Yeah. It's not so much about, whether they have money to pay or not. It's actually how the attitude and also the relationship that you have with the creditors or the debtors. Yes or yes. So, this is the communication guy. And I hope you will learn a lot. I think we all do. And he has conducted tons and tons of webinars and seminars and also workshops for a lot of big companies and also SMEs, but mostly corporate. So we have developed a lot of different dialogues, and this has helped a lot of companies to do a lot of collection and also save a lot of their money. So thank you one more time, Shahrukh. He is a good man.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, Gumit, for arranging this and putting so many people in the room on a Friday morning. And guys, you guys have been a great audience and interactive. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you again in a very near future. And we wish you all stay safe. Don't go out if you can.
Okay. And, what if the debtor think what you said is a treat to them?
Oh.
Okay, a threat to them. Okay, no, I have a private message from someone here. So I was just thinking, okay, the answer to this private message is that the debtor will never think that whatever you said is a threat to them if you say it